Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of a new podcast, a joint effort of what is going to be some dumb stuff. I'm here with two really good friends of mine. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hey,
You go ahead.
we're rookies.
Always
we're
stealing the
rookies,
ball
all
anyway.
right? We're rookies. Yo, hey, my name's Mikey.
What's up? I'm Zach. Normally go by Shep. Either way, happy to be here.
Yes, sir.
Same here.
And then last but not least, I'm Nick. People on my channel probably know me as Silver Ranch, and we'll kind of just give a quick little synopsis, just a little intro of this. It started one night. How long was it ago when we suggested the idea? Like a week or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks. I want to say.
2 weeks? Yeah, it was like right before the Super Bowl, I want to say.
Yeah.
Probably,
Yeah. It was like right before the Super Bowl. Zach brought up the idea of doing a podcast, and I just said, screw it, let's run it. And we're going to be talking about sports content or sports topics across all four American professional sports leagues, and possibly even talking about college sports. So I feel like fitting enough since we started this idea right around the time of the Super Bowl. I feel like it's fitting that we talk about the end of the football season as the Eagles beat down the Chiefs. For starters, I meant to ask you guys this. Did either of you go to a Super Bowl party, or did you just watch it at your place?
I went up with a couple of my boys from baseball. Went and watched. It was very exciting. Mostly all of us were for the Eagles. There's a couple
Yeah, I
that
wonder
were,
why.
and let's just say they weren't too pleased with the outcome.
Yeah, I went to a party with one of my buddy's house. Or I guess it was more of like a club, not like a nightclub or anything, but like a social club. So we did like a potluck, and yeah, most people were very decidedly not necessarily for Eagles, just anti-Chiefs. So.
You see, I definitely understand that because I went to a party on this in my apartment. It was a bunch of us, and we had this whiteboard. We all could write down who we thought was going to win beforehand. I was one of three people who put the Chiefs, not because I wanted them to win. It's just because I thought there was going to be a lot of dumb stuff, and it was going to be a close game. I couldn't have been further from wrong.
See, I heard a lot of people talking about you had the Chiefs wagon, you had the Eagles wagon, then you had the Meteor Strike wagon. I heard a lot of traction on that one.
That was
But,
there was some funny videos of people talking about me.
Oh yeah.
I was fully bought in for the Eagles. I just couldn't stand the Chiefs winning. I would have been so mad if they won because that would have just played right into the script.
No, I definitely get that. I am glad that people like Saquon and AJ Brown did get a Super Bowl ring. I really am happy for
They just
guys like
didn't.
them.
The Chiefs never played particularly well. Like I'm not sure I could pick a game this season where you looked at it and you just said, "Wow, they just kicked the snot out of somebody."
No, they really didn't have a game like that all year. But it was like the weird version of it though, because I remember they won 17 straight one-score games. Like
Still
running
active,
into
by the
that, it's still active, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't count when you
It
get
just-
your doors blown off.
no, not at all. But like to win by that, by the short margin, we all like kind of talked about it. It was either going to be down to the wire or somebody was getting blown out. Like there was no in between, and it kind of was that. I don't think the final score does it justice because it got as bad as. Oh God, I'm gonna look it up just because I'm really curious. It got as bad as. What was the worst I saw?
35 or 40 to 6.
34 to nothing.
Yeah,
there you go.
With about 2 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Like the Chiefs were not in it at any point.
Yeah, and let's be
And-
honest, like the points that the Chiefs got at the end were just basically the Eagles. Like, yeah, here you go, you can have these. Like, we're gonna put our secondaries out.
Yeah, well,
If y'all
I thought it
wanna
was
have a
fitting that
chance.
you put, it felt like a college game almost. Like it felt like a, SEC team thrashing their annual, FCS Alabama team. Where it's just,
Alabama
okay,
beating
you take
Mercer
everybody
type
out.
game.
Yeah, it's like you take everybody out with 5 minutes left in the game. Kenny Pickett took the final knee for the Super Bowl.
One of the wildest things
Right.
ever.
Like they just were little brothered and they were outclassed. And for the first time, I think in at least since Tampa Bay KC Super Bowl, Andy Reid was outcoached.
Yeah.
Very,
He was.
very
100%.
decidedly outcoached.
And it seems like there's only really one way the Chiefs have, at least I've seen, have looked bad. I've seen it 4 times. 3 in the postseason and 1 in the regular season. The regular season game was, ironically, the Matt Ryan Colts. They smoked the Chiefs. In one of the few wins they actually got that season, in which Mahomes was running for his life. And it was pretty much like that in all the postseason losses they had. Tampa, the Eagles, and then Cincy, actually, in which he got dominated by the front 7. And that's a hard thing to ask for teams, is to have a really dominant front 7. But when you have the guys like the Eagles did, you had Josh Sweat, you had Jalen Carter, you had Oren Burks step up. Zach Bond almost won Defensive Player of the Year this year as a linebacker. He was so unbelievable this season. And that's a hard thing to overcome when the Chiefs line was not like as dominant as other years.
Well, I'm going to argue this is the best linebacker core in the NFL for several years.
The Eagles.
Yeah. They didn't blitz at all. Not one time the entire game.
Yeah.
They had 6 sacks. They rushed 4 the entire time.
Yep.
But the linebackers, the reason Mahomes is so good is because when he gets out of the pocket, he finds, whether that's Hopkins or Kelsey usually, or it's been Hollywood Brown, it used to be Tyreek, the guys who just leak coverage. Like they have their route and then they just play the little scramble game where they're all running in circles, and the linebackers just stayed with them.
Yeah.
Like Zach Bond had that gorgeous interception.
And they didn't have that, and they only had 2 guys really playing at linebacker through the whole game. It was pretty much Oren Burks after Nakobe Dean. I forget if he tore his ACL or his Achilles like in the first round against the Packers. I forget, but he had like a season-ending injury that he's probably not going to be back for next year. But Oren Burks stepped up and played had phenomenal playoffs, especially in that game against against Washington. He was unbelievable in that game. And then you talk about Zach Bond. And it's unbelievable because there were so many guys that were like cast-offs from this Eagles team. You had C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who pretty much got ran out of Detroit, allegedly. You had Zach Bond, who was pretty much discarded by the Saints, and he just left off to the side of the road because they just didn't have the money to pay him. And then you had Mekhi Becton on the offensive line, who was just thrown out like garbage because he hadn't panned out for the Jets since he had been drafted in 2020, I want to say, was the year. So it's something I found, which I think made the Eagles honestly a little more likable, was they got a lot out of guys that pretty much were discarded by their franchises.
Well, it was definitely interesting. They wanted it more.
Definitely.
Very clearly, they were hungrier. They had a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what they do next year. I still don't buy the whole dynasty thing. I know the Chiefs did it. It's naive to not call them a dynasty, but the Eagles, I'll give them got their flowers. They did fantastic,
Yeah.
and they deserved that win. But they did it in a very weak NFC. The NFC had a very down year. I'm not sure I'd call a single team in the NFC besides the Eagles great. Like, Detroit was close.
And then they had a really rough play.
Their injuries were terrible. Washington was fine. Washington wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Washington
I
struck
agree.
me as the KC Royals from last year. They were good.
That's a fair comparison.
They're too
honestly.
young. They're not ready.
Yeah.
They will be ready.
Yeah.
2 years
I
from
think
now,
give
they'll be
Jaden a
solid.
few more years, and I think he'll be in that
Oh, yeah.
picture.
You think that game sparked like how the Eagles are going to play going into the Super Bowl? Like how much they dominated Washington in what a lot of people thought was going to be a really intense game?
No, I don't think the Eagles sweated that game for a second, to tell you the truth. It's a division rival. It's at home. It's the first NFC Championship game at home since the Vikings, I think, the last time they won the Super Bowl. I think you could have put anybody in that team, and they would have gone in a frenzy. That Philly crowd is electric. As much as I don't like them, they're electric. I'll give them that. But
That is fair.
I think the thing that put the chip on their shoulder was Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce talking about the three-peat stuff all Super Bowl week, because they do the media stuff all the time.
Yeah,
And
you're
the
right.
big media week, and I always think it's a little bit excessive the way that they do it. But they're talking about is, the three-peat, and we're going to get it done, and we're hungry, and we're motivated. And it's like, okay, well, everybody counted the Eagles out.
Yeah.
They deserved to be the favorites in the game. They weren't the favorites in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all think that the Chiefs were overconfident that they were going to dominate that game?
I wouldn't say overconfident, because again, I think they were aware how they played all season, which was ugly, with a strong defense, and pulling out a lot of last-second wins. Not sometimes because of just dumb stuff, but other times just because A, they had the ball last, and B, they made the most out of a lot of their drives. They were really efficient in being able to move the ball when they needed to. They did it against the Texans. They did it against the Bills, unfortunately. And they just couldn't do it. There were too many times I kept trying, especially because what really surprised me was we knew how tough the Eagles' front seven was going to be. So I really didn't understand. They were trying to really, they tried establishing the run the first, 3 drives, and it got nowhere. It's bad when Mahomes had more rushing yards than the rest of the team combined.
And he only had 25.
He had 25. The rest of the team had 24.
I did not know
Nailed.
that. That's crazy.
This is terrible.
Well, I'm going to give you a different perspective. From an AFC guy, the Eagles team is the first team in the last 3 years that has not been afraid to play the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Love Baltimore. Yeah. It's my team. I'm fine with the Bills. Not this year, but, I have
Did you
respect
classify
for the
Cincy
Bills.
when they beat them?
Maybe. I think that Bengals team had an aura about them too. They just had a confidence or cockiness,
Kind of both.
But yeah, kind of flipped that line. But that's the problem with these AFC teams is they get in the playoffs, and because Mahomes is the only team in the AFC, the only guy in the AFC now that Brady's gone that has been to the Super Bowl besides Burrow. Every team kind of puckers. They get nervous and they get down, and then they throw a stupid pick, or all of a sudden something doesn't go their way and it's the ref's fault. I'm not saying that the refs didn't provide some advantages, but I'm not going to suggest that they won the game. The reason that these teams keep losing to the Chiefs, especially in the AFC, is because they pucker and they get nervous, and Spagnuolo is great at disguising coverages.
Yes.
So he disguises pressure, he loads the box, so all of a sudden you can't run the ball, and then he drops them all back into coverage.
Even the Bills game, remember the final play that pretty much that lost them the game on defense, where they had this crazy blitz. They brought in 5 guys up front, 2 guys drop in the coverage, a safety comes in, and a cornerback blitzes off the side, just completely mess with the coverage. And I think the cornerback gets in completely untouched. Josh Allen does the best he could, throws up not the best ball, but honestly the fact he even got the ball out was honestly insane. And it missed Kincaid by Kincaid could have caught it, but like I said, that play failed by it wasn't either's fault. It was just a really good play. It was just one of the best. Honestly, it's one of the best defensive plays I've seen in a big moment like that. And like I said, the difference was this much, and that's what I mean. It's just that summed up the Chiefs this year. This was the difference between.
Well, they were 6 inches from being 8 and 9.
Honestly, I would say 8 and 9, but
maybe
10 and 7.
Yeah.
10-7.
A lot of
They would
things
have
went
had 4 or
their
5
way
more losses.
during season.
I mean, they're a shoe size, a block field goal, and a
garbage
botched
penalty
snap, and a botched
in the
snap
Cincy
from 3
game.
more losses.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost lost to the Raiders.
They almost lost to the Falcons early in the season. Yeah, they almost. Oh yeah, the botched fumble on Black Friday. That game still made me so angry. You and I both, bro.
Well, because the ref on the far side was coming in false starting, and he blew the play dead. So he blew his whistle. You heard the whistle on the broadcast. He's coming in blowing his hand, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, actually, it's an illegal formation, and it doesn't count, and it's a fumble, and the Chiefs got it. Game over." Oh, all right. Could do a little better explanation than that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I got that I'm curious to ask out of you too, moving past the Super Bowl now as we head towards the off season. Do you think is there any team you would project you would think that maybe underachieved this season that you could see bouncing back next year? I know you're not as much of a football guy.
Honestly, though, I don't see any teams that didn't make it this year to have any success next year, unless they have some crazy pickups in the off season.
San Fran better load up. I'm not sure they're gonna do it, but they better be.
I don't know if they're gonna be able to.
I mean, I think that they had too many locker room problems, and then their running back room was deceased.
They had a lot, yeah. They had a lot of injuries, and then I know guys like Trent Williams and Javarius Ward had like brutal seasons off the field.
And then, I mean, Trent Williams had a bad season off the field, and then he got signed like right before the season started. Then he got hurt, and then he was never the same. McCaffrey played, what, 3 games, maybe?
3 games, yeah.
Jordan Mason got hurt. Their third string got hurt.
Actually, no, I had both Mason and Garendo at points this season.
Yeah. I mean, Purdy is decent. I mean, he flourishes in that system specifically. I mean, then again, so did Jimmy G. But regardless, he can do the job. I know you're not a Niners fan, but I always think
I'm not
that,
a Jimmy G fan ever, but that's.
I think those guys, like, that team should have been a playoff team.
No, I do.
There's
agree.
no reason they shouldn't have been, other than injury bug.
I'm honestly more mad the Rams made the playoffs more than anything. Like the Niners, I was just shocked. I found it funny because I don't like the Niners. Don't get it twisted, but it was just more of like I just never think they're as good as they always come out to be, but they have a talented roster.
But
I do believe that.
If you're giving me a question of what team is going to bounce back that didn't,
I do think that's a good one.
Niners.
Because I do think
I'm
the
sure
Rams
there are
really
other teams that are
overachieved.
going to big time regress, but I think the Niners will jump. They have
I
to.
do think part of it was also the Rams definitely overachieved, especially that second half of the year because they look like garbage down the stretch. It really shouldn't have made it, but Seattle choked when it mattered the most. FML, honestly, but. And then like you said, the Niners got decimated by injuries, and Arizona was terrible in the second half. So it just kind of worked out for LA. For me, you're probably not going to agree with this, Zach, but
You're going to say Cincy.
I am. And here's why. One, I do think the Steelers overachieved. Easily overachieved. 2, they have a defense that's not bottom 3 in the NFL. They go 12 and 5. They had a bottom 3 defense and still went 9 and 8. Joe Burrow basically had a Drew Brees season. Put up elite numbers, had no help around him, and is still kept the team over 500 in the playoff picture late in the season. Without him there, that team is 3 and 14.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but they're going to lose T. Higgins. No way they keep him.
I don't think so. No, he's going.
He's
to,
going to
Patriots
Washington. Mark my words.
He's going to the Patriots or Carolina, I believe.
But they got Trey Hendrickson. That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not going to get Myles Garrett, obviously.
No.
They might get Joey Bosa, but I think that's a mistake. And they still have no secondary and no run game. Like, yeah, it took Burrow's magical season to get him almost to the playoffs, and I'm not going to argue that had they had better coaching or a better defense, they would be in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're several pieces away. I wouldn't be surprised if they came back, but Burrow has to have Superman season again.
Yeah.
Because that was their ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
They hit their ceiling. Realistically speaking, that was as good as they were going to do. That defense was not going to get them to the playoffs.
I do believe with new scheming and new players, because they're going to go out and get some guys if they're going to lose Higgins. And they got the offensive weapons. I think that they can be fine. I know he's not, like, I know replacing a guy like Higgins is a tall ask, but I do think they got talent that they don't use a ton in guys like, again, and this is just speculation. I do think guys like Iosifas and Burton could step up and be that solid too for next year. I really do think that. And they still got Gesicki. It's gonna depend on how long is Chase Brown out.
That's the thing. They didn't have a run game.
Yeah.
That was
They
the issue.
did. Chase Brown almost had 1,000 yards, and he missed the last game of the season. He was 10 yards away. He had 990.
I don't like the 1,000-yard argument anymore. There's too many games.
And he didn't really play the first half of the season either.
We'll see.
He came in when Zach Moss got hurt in week 6 and pretty much took over full load.
Now, if
from
they were
week
to pick
7
up like if they could get Genty, that'd be great. They won't get. They probably won't get him. They probably won't fall to him. But like that'd be the type of move. Or they pick up a cornerback or something, or safety.
They need secondary in the worst way. Just Geno Stone. Shout out Ravens, by the way. He was bad.
The Ravens are good at doing that. They're good at making okay guys look great, and then they leave and they're just okay.
He was terrible. He was like, I remember seeing on like Pro Football Focus. He was like one of the worst corners in football.
Linebacker went to Pittsburgh, I think. I can't remember his name though.
You mean number 6?
Yeah, the only thing I remember is stiff arm from Derrick Henry
Derrick
in the
Henry?
playoffs.
Yeah. We saw that live.
Rushing touchdown. Yeah, yeah, that was great.
Patrick Queen. Yeah.
And then I've never heard a linebacker claim to have the flu after the game.
That's funny.
Such is
Got
life.
embarrassed.
Oh yeah, seeing that live is another experience. By the way, that was hilarious watching that game. Hilarious and depressing because I do like watching both teams. So, but that's just me. I guess like I said, with football season coming to a close, we got our favorite sport about to start up this season, right?
Oh yeah.
Underwater basket weaving.
Yes,
Water polo. Nah, we are all big time lovers of baseball. But I guess going into it, like what are you guys expecting going into this year for baseball?
Chaos, as usual.
Yeah. I expect domination from one team in particular.
Are we doing this?
I guess we're doing it.
Seems like we're doing this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Careful what you wish for, but
We kind of so before we made this video, we all were talking one night on a call of like who we thought, like we were talking about division winners, wild cards, and like who we thought were going to be the best in baseball. And Mikey has something that's
I think Dodgers are just going to dominate. There's no question about it. I think they are stacked up and down, defensively, offensively, pitching, whatever it is, they are stacked. There's nothing that is going to be able to stop them unless there are injuries. Injuries are the only thing that can stop them.
The question I asked is, so you think they're going to be the best team in baseball, right?
Yes, 100%. I think they'll have
What
over
would you say
100
the
wins.
record is in 162 games?
In 162 games, I think they'll get close to like 104, 105 wins on the season. Yeah. I think they're going to dominate.
It's like 105, 57.
Yeah. I'm thinking that's if they have no injuries. Like if everybody stays in good condition and they don't lose anybody this season, I think they will have a 105 win season.
They did do a really good job given the fact that they were running out essentially guys with silly string for arms in the postseason. I will say that.
Yeah.
Because their only starters in the playoffs were Walker Buehler and Yamamoto.
Mm-hmm.
And Buehler is buns, and now he's with Boston.
Yeah.
Still find that funny, but
but
no, I do see that.
Yeah, and even without Shohei being able to pitch right, he's still down this year, correct?
He's projected to be able to pitch this year.
He's throwing bullpens. Yeah.
Is he throwing bullpens? I mean, even if he doesn't pitch, I still think their starting pitching rotation is just going to dominate, especially with Roki coming in as well.
So, because this is what I'm curious about. So, I'll say the rotation without Ohtani in it, because I don't think he's going to start pitching to open up the season. If I were to guess, he's probably going to come in either right before or right after the All-Star break and probably pitch the rest of the year. I would say just as a guess, maybe August.
Maybe
after the deadline.
Letting him focus on DHing for this season.
Yeah, maybe the season and then let him get back to pitching. I think they'll let him pitch towards the end of the year, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Because they want to see if his arm is ready.
Yeah, especially if they're easily making playoffs. Like, they'll just, hey, go out there, pitch a game for us. Like,
but even if he's not, like, the rotation currently is Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Sasaki, and then pick your poison between Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May. And the last one's going to be a little interesting because they're both coming off of major arm injuries.
Yeah.
But I do think that's a pretty nice top 5 up and down. I don't think there's a lot of pitching staffs in baseball that are going to be better than that.
Yeah.
Healthy, because obviously there's a lot of risk for arm injuries.
Yep.
Just giving a preamble for that, but I do
Especially
think.
with guys throwing as hard as they are now.
Oh yeah, we Glasnow was shelved like 3 times during last season. Yamamoto was on the shelf with back injuries.
Yeah.
Snell's had arm problems here and there. But no, I do. If that lineup's healthy, even if it's even if it's just for like over half of the season, especially that back half, they're gonna be one of the best teams in baseball.
100%.
But I'm curious to hear what you think on this side.
So I'm not going to refute. 105 is good. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit that. I'm not going to argue the win total in the regular season, just because there's a lot of games and
Yeah.
they get to run through the entire league this year.
Yep.
I like that new format of you get to play everybody in the league. I think that's great for the league.
I do like that they did this now.
I don't care if they get 140 wins. They're not winning the World Series.
Wow.
It's just not going to happen.
If you were to do before preseason,
I'm taking the field. Anybody
field.
but the Dodgers. I'm not taking the Dodgers. It's not happening. They got a good year last year, and their talent showed through just barely. By the way, their one loss from losing to San Diego, and then all of a sudden San Diego forgot how to hit a baseball. It's the only reason that they're still alive.
Still one of the wildest things ever.
Yeah. Ultimate choke job to me. But, you lose a 2-0 lead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did 2 elimination games and went back-to-back. Good for them.
Yep.
I mean, backs against the wall. I mean,
They know what they were doing.
it's good to see. But when's the last time a 1 seed won the World Series? I mean, it's been, 24 Dodgers, 20 Dodgers, 18 Red Sox, 16 Cubs, 13.
Wait, the Astros weren't the 1 seed in 22?
No, they're the 2.
They were?
It was one.
Yeah, probably the Yankees.
In 22?
Red Sox maybe?
Nah, let me check this.
Look it up.
Wasn't
So actually, I'm curious.
definitely.
Because the Astros won 100 games that season. I remember because it was either the game before we clinched. It was either the game before we clinched or the game after they had just hit 100 wins in that season. So I'd be shocked if they weren't the.
There was a lot
of
of 100-win season or teams that season.
in 2022.
I thought there were. Wouldn't that when the Giants won a bunch and Dodgers won a bunch?
No, that was 21. That was 20. It was either 2020 or 2021.
Well, it couldn't have been 2020 because you didn't have 100.
Or not 2020. 2021. It was 2021.
Yeah.
I remember because it was Gabe
But
Kapler's
anyway,
first
while
full
you're doing
season.
that, I'll keep ranting.
Yeah, keep going.
Baseball, as you guys both know, is very streaky.
it
It
is.
has nothing to do with talent. It has everything to do with momentum. Like you could have. I mean, look at the 2019 Nats. Like I know that's a one-off, but that's a team that had momentum for 8 months, and they were 19-31 in May. They got hot, and they just stayed hot. They beat the hell out of the Dodgers at home. They beat the snot out of the Cardinals, who were great that year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they beat the Death Star. They beat the Evil Empire in Houston, right after their scandal broke. That Houston team should have smacked them.
You mean the Nats?
Yeah, the Astros
Yeah.
were the best team in baseball that year by far. They showed it. They had their pitching was some of the best I've ever seen. They had a 3-headed monster that you could almost compare to the '90s Braves teams.
Yeah, I mean when you have Verlander, Garrett Cole, and Zach Greinke.
Like Garrett Cole had the best pitching season in the last 10 years outside of the guy on his team who won the Cy Young. But that's my point is like it made no difference. The only difference it made was because they weren't hot enough. They didn't have enough momentum. And unlike basketball or football or hockey where you can run the clock out, you can't run the clock out in baseball.
Right.
You're going to have to face these guys. You're going to have to face, these teams that are hot and they're hungry. And quite frankly, they are better than you that given night. I mean, you could throw in a bunch of teams in the NL. The NL is loaded. Like the American League, not as good this year. National League is loaded. You got the Mets, you got the Phillies, you got the Padres. Diamondbacks are a lot better this year. They had a bad year on offense, and they still were decent. Now they loaded up their pitching. They stole Corbin Burns. Corbin Carroll, if he's anything like he was the last half of the season, he'll be fine. You still got Ketel Marte. Like, I know you lost Christian Walker, but like that, you got to face them in division.
Yeah.
Who am I missing?
Yeah. Just me
Like-
personally, I think that this is the start of a Dodgers dynasty. And until other teams start to compete with money and doing what the Dodgers are doing, I don't think there's going to be any competition for the Dodgers.
I mean, there are teams trying. I mean, here's the thing: there are teams trying right now. I mean, the Phillies are trying, the Mets are trying, and the Yankees are trying to do that, and the Rangers kind of, sort
But
of.
you're building a lot of trust on pitchers that haven't proven themselves yet. Roki Sasaki's never pitched a ball in the MLB. He's done great in Korea, but we also beat Korea. The style of play, pitchers who can't hack it in the MLB go to Korea. Like, not to discredit their baseball at all. It's very competitive, but it's not the MLB. The best athletes in the world are in America for a reason.
But also,
Yamamoto's
Roki
1 year
Sasaki
removed.
goes on.
Yamamoto was decent. He was okay. He was fine. He had injuries, but he's not an ace. Glasnow is not a workhorse. Glasnow was great, but he got hurt because he's not a workhorse. He's not an innings
Same with
eater.
Blake Snell as well.
And Blake
if
Snell
anything.
is either the best pitcher you've ever seen or terrible. There's no middle ground. And coming off a Cy Young,
is true.
he's always terrible.
Last year was almost like the antithesis of what Blake Snell was. He was so bad in the first half,
And then he was great.
and then he threw a no-hitter and then was unstoppable the second half of the
But
year.
that's my point. It's like you're banking a lot on their pitching of just if they're good. Like I would. Who is the ace on that staff? Who is the
the
bona
ace?
fide day one, game 5? Who's starting that game right now?
If I were to be a bet, like, especially because I'm looking at probably opening day, if nothing else, it's probably going to be Yamamoto. If I were to
That's what I
bet,
was gonna say.
but
I would say.
I mean, their offense is great. Don't get me wrong. Their offense is fantastic. Like, I mean, you have a 3-headed monster, and then some support to go with it. I mean, you got Betts, Freeman, and Ohtani. I mean, you can't really argue that. But I'm not sure in a series like that when it all comes down on the line, you've got at least 2 unproven playoff pitchers. And who are you going to put the ball in their hands? And you're going to have a surprise team. It happens every year.
Yep.
Especially with the expanded wild card, some team's going to get hot and they're going to go into LA as the 1 seed, or LA being the 1 seed. They're going to go into Los Angeles hot, determined, ready to go. Los Angeles is going to have a bye. That's a given.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not even going to refute that.
no.
So
sure.
they're going to play some team that just kicked the curb stomped whatever team came out of the NL Central. And they're going to go into Los Angeles hot and motivated to beat the evil empire. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to stop them.
I do want to argue, just because I'm curious here. I mean, I guess the reason I'm a little more high on their pitching, because when they won the World Series, you had Yamamoto, who came off back problems and barely pitched down the stretch. You had Walker Buehler was there too. He had a 6 ERA through most of the year. He was there 2 into the playoffs. And they started Ben Kasperius twice.
Okay, I'll give you something to. Who were the great? Not good. Who were the great teams in MLB last year?
Who were the great teams?
Great, like put them on a pedestal with great teams from the past.
Not my team.
0. I would argue there are none. Maybe
The only
Dodgers.
examples, the only
Maybe.
ones I could give are the Yankees and Dodgers.
Yankees were fine. They were
Yankees
okay.
were really good last
Like
year.
they had their moments.
They had some rough moments. But the thing is, everybody outside the Dodgers had a really bad stretch of baseball,
0 100-win teams. None.
Yeah.
which is wild.
It's
But,
not it's not that hard for a 100-win team. Like, I get, 100 wins is a lot. You have to be a great team to get to 100 wins. It's not impossible. It happens every year. The fact that there weren't any leads me to believe that last year was kind of a down year. Like, talent was very spread out, which I think is good for the sport. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Yankees were some historic, or the Yankees and Dodgers were this historic franchise, this historically great teams. Like, they were good. They were good enough to win, which is, respectable. But I'm not going to say that team could have beaten, 27 Yankees or anything.
Yeah.
Like,
I meant to tell you, the 2022 Astros were the best team in the AL. They had 106 wins.
But they weren't the best team in baseball. Giants.
No, that was 2021.
Dodgers was probably better. I know the Astros were the best team in baseball.
Let me check that again. Apologies.
But let me hear rattle division winners though while we have time.
It was the Dodgers.
Yeah.
They had 111 wins. They had 111 wins,
and they didn't win the World Series. That's my point.
So yeah, you had 4 teams who won 100 games that season.
Exactly.
You had the Astros who won 106, the Braves and Mets each won 101, and the Dodgers won 111.
That's my point.
What year was this? 22?
That was 22.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were the 1 seed in their respective side, but I guess to be fair, and then the other thing I was curious about, and this is to you, Mikey, it's very hard for a team to win back-to-back. Fun fact, it hasn't happened.
98.
It hasn't happened since the turn of the millennium.
Yeah.
The last time was the 98, 99, 2000 Yankees.
That's my other thing. Do it dynasties don't exist in baseball. It's too sporadic.
Yeah.
Dynasties can exist if you're playing good. Like, the Giants would technically count as that because they won 3 World Series in 5 years.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, like...
Back-to-back is just almost impossible in baseball, though.
Everything has to go right twice in a row.
Yeah. The only other team that's done it was... They made the World Series twice, but they didn't win it twice, was the Royals. 14 and 15. They lost on a heartbreaker in Game 7, and then came back in 2015 and smoked the Mets.
Astros were pretty close, too.
Forever. Were they?
Yeah, several World Series
I was going to
appearances.
say, Astros were up there for a while.
Any NL East team
true.
that's won a World Series in the last 5 years has beaten the Astros. Or lost to, I guess, in the Phillies case.
Pain.
Yeah, Braves beat the Astros.
I know the Braves
Nats
beat
beat the
them.
Astros.
And then that's beat them.
Then Philly choked.
Pain.
They've never been the same.
And
Anyway, your division winners.
who wants to go first?
I asked the question.
I'll go first. So you're just gonna rattle off all the division winners, or are we just gonna do American League then National League?
Just rattle divisions first.
All right. For the AL East, I'm gonna go Yankees. Solely because I'm just not bought in on the Orioles starting pitching staff. That was their main Achilles heel last year, which ironically didn't kill them in the playoffs. It was the opposite, which is really ironic more than anything. But I don't know. I just because I'm curious and I'm looking very quickly. The Orioles starting rotation, if I looked, is Grayson Rodriguez, Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, Tomoyuki Sugano, Dean Kramer, and Albert Suarez. That's not a great rotation. No offense. If Zach Eflin's your 2, there's problems. Hi, I'm a Phillies fan. I should know.
He had his moments.
He had his moments. No, he had him in Philly as well. It's just I would not rely on him to be a 2. No way. No chance. And that, I think, is going to hurt you guys. That and Bautista coming back is essentially who you're relying on the bullpen.
The mountain is back.
It is going to be exciting to see him, but I just don't think he's going to come back and be as dominant as he was. Not the first year back. I just don't see it. So I think the Yankees take it. Not by a crazy amount. I would say by like 3 games. But I think the Yankees take it. As for the Central, I can't buy it on Cleveland. I just can't after the Josh Naylor trade. I really feel like they downgraded in a big way for what seemed like no reason as well, because Slate Sassoni is not good. So I just never understood that trade from start to finish. So I'm going KC until I see something different. Maybe spring training could change my mind, but I'm going to go KC. And as for the AL West, this was just a coin flip between, in my opinion, the Astros and Rangers. I'm going to say Astros. I really don't think that division is going to be that good. I really think whoever wins that division is winning 90 games max. So maybe 93. And I feel like that's pushing it with that division. I really feel like the division is terrible. Because I got zero faith in the Mariners. None.
Julio.
I got no faith in
G-Rad.
the Mariners right now.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a toss-up between the Rangers and Astros. I think the Rangers are just going to get a little more banged up, especially on their pitching side. So that'll be decided by like one game. That's going to be like probably the closest division race, only because the division is going to be a train wreck. Do you want me to do National League or?
We'll switch.
All right,
I'll go ahead and go. Read mine.
go on.
I'm gonna say Baltimore for AL East. Basically, the flip flop of Unique. I think Baltimore's gonna win it by 3, because I think offense is
Interesting.
king in this game, and I think Baltimore's offense is just gonna be too good. You finally got these rookies had a few years into the league. I think they're just going to start to shine through. I mean, what do you got? You got Gunner. You got
Gunner, Adley, Jackson,
Adley,
Holiday.
Holiday.
They did lose Santander though.
Cowser's another year. You got
Cowser. Forgot about
I think
Kierstad
O'Neal's
is-
going to replace.
O'Neal's gonna be in there. O'Neal's
think he's gonna
jacked, by
replace-
the way. Have you seen him?
Oh, he's huge. Do you think he's
Oh
going to
my
replace
goodness.
Santander?
I'm not sure about production. I think Cowser is gonna replace his production. I think Cowser takes a big leap.
Interesting. That's fair. No, I get that.
You got the milkmen out in force.
All right. So you think Baltimore?
Yeah, I think Baltimore. Probably
Fair
about
enough.
the same 3 or 4 games over Yankees.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm a toss-up for AL Central and AL West. I'm thinking Cleveland's going to take the AL Central again.
Ooh.
I think they'll take the AL Central, and I think Texas will take the AL West. I just don't see the Astros having a good year. And like you said about the Mariners, I don't see them doing much.
I'm glad we can at least agree on that.
Well, hold that agreement, but we'll see. It's hard for me with Baltimore because I know they have problems pitching, and I think they're gonna do well. Offensively, I don't think they can avoid. Like, if they don't do well offensively, I think they're gonna be in big trouble.
Yeah.
But I don't see. They have too much talent on offense. I'm gonna switch it. I'm gonna go Baltimore. Just
You go
'cause
Baltimore.
I think that their pitching just has to be
Join me.
good enough. I don't think it has to be good, but they've got youth movement.
I mean, their field does help with the pitching.
Yeah,
Yes,
well, they
the
just moved
change.
it again. I don't know what
Listen.
direction they moved it in or out. but
I
they
think
just
they
moved
What, the
moved
left
it.
field again?
I think
they
they
moved
moved
left
left
field.
field in a little bit so that
Yeah, I
the
think they
ball's
moved
a
it
little
in
bit
because
more
they were
like straight
because it was
line.
sitting. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it should be more offensively friendly.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Okay.
Adley had a down year and he was still good.
Yeah.
Gunner took off. I think you're going to see Colton Cowser. I mentioned that. I think Colton Cowser's going to have a big year.
Yeah.
No,
If he's an
Malcap's got
all-star-
to be happy with the wall change.
If he's an all-star, we might go to a game as one of the milkmen. Might have to. But yeah, I think that they take it. I think it's going to be close. Both of those teams are playoff teams easily.
Yeah, I agree.
I think whichever one doesn't win is the 4 seed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
100%.
no, I'll agree with that.
I don't think the AL Central is competitive at all. I think KC runs away with it. I don't see that. I don't
do
see
think
much
that's
competition
fair.
there. Cleveland took a step back. Minnesota did literally nothing.
They literally have
they
not
did-
signed anyone.
Yeah, zero signings.
Do they still have zero? I know that the
They might have
Padres made
one.
moves.
They might have one, but they did.
Oh, they signed somebody. They signed a few guys.
Well, okay.
They got 3 guys. They got Danny Colombe, Harrison Bader, and Ty France.
Okay. Well, they're not going to win the division.
No.
Detroit played very well, but they played over their head. They're not
Oh,
ready
yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
They're not ready
They-
yet.
they
They
need a-
will
they
be.
need a
They will
couple
be
more
fighting
years.
for a playoff spot, but they will not be fighting for the division.
I had them
They need a
fourth
couple more years
last
before I
season.
think they're developed
Yeah.
to a successful team.
And then AL West, I don't see the Astros doing particularly well. They lost a lot of pieces. They didn't gain a whole bunch back. I mean, I know they got Christian Walker, and I know you're big on Christian Walker. That's about it.
I mean, they did get Isaac Paredes as well. He is very good.
Okay, well, I mean, that's fine. They lost 4 All-Stars from last year, but I don't see them winning that division. I have trouble seeing them as a playoff team. They're going to be close, but I don't know, man. I don't
Not
know.
the Los Angeles Angels.
I mean, Trout in right field will be interesting. But
Don't worry, they're starting. They're going to start Tim Anderson in the outfield.
Hold on.
well, he's going to be center field because Trout's in right. But, no, I think the Rangers
never know.
take it. I think Seattle had
Okay.
better do well. Their pitching is fantastic. I know you're a Seattle hater because you're a Seattle sports fan and you hate your own teams, but Seattle is good. They just had a terrible offensive year. Like, it just didn't help that Cal Raleigh and Julio both had the worst season of their career.
It's
Like,
gonna happen again.
and they had the best pitching in baseball last year. By far. All they got to do is do it. Like, they got to have decent. Like, their pitching is great. None of you guys can debate how good their pitching is. Their offense is the problem.
Yeah.
And I understand they didn't do a whole bunch to shore the offense, but they have a potential face of the league on their team that just did terribly. But he's still fantastic. Like, he's a
I do agree.
He's a 40-40 candidate every year he plays. All he's got to do is lead that team. If he takes that step offensively, they're winning the playoffs, and what I imagine to be a relatively weak AL West, they have a chance. They flirted with 90 wins 2 years ago.
I mean, he still put up a 2020 season regardless of the problems. It's just
Because his September was amazing.
yeah, he had a really good September. And my problem's not as much him as it is just everything else around him. Because if Trout and Ohtani prove nothing, you can't have two guys essentially run your whole team. And again,
The Angels had no pitching.
The Angels had
The
no
Angels
pitching.
had zero pitching. That's why you couldn't have it. It's because they gave up 6 runs a game. So two
Man,
guys
it's-
aren't going to score 6 runs. But if
But the
your
problem is they
team's
only
giving up a
scored-
max of 3-4 runs a game, yeah, you got a shot.
But when you're only scoring like 2 runs a game most times, that's
Then
a
you're
problem.
competitive. That's what the Angels weren't, was competitive. The
Well.
Mariners were at the very minimum competitive. All you need is competitive.
I guess that's fair.
In pitching and the entire AL West, pitching took a step back.
Mm-hmm.
Every team lost pitching. But we'll switch to National
I
League
think
if you want.
J-Rod needs to be a leader for the Mariners, and I just don't see him being that.
He's got to be a clubhouse leader
Yeah.
if they're going to do anything.
Yeah, I just don't see him
agree.
doing that. That's just me.
I believe in the guy.
So
I like the Trident
that's
too.
fair.
I missed the Trident celebration. That was pretty cool.
yeah, that was.
But I'll go first for National League.
Yeah, go ahead.
Big elephant in the room. Dodgers are winning the division. I feel like that's a given.
I feel like we all can
hold
agree
on.
on that.
Yeah. Whoa, craziness. Yeah. No,
Whoa! Hey,
Nah, it's gonna be the Rockies. Watch.
the Giants come out of nowhere.
No,
we'll go to a game in September if the Rockies are winning the division at any point.
I agreed.
Go out to
Put that on
Colorado.
camera. But yeah.
If that happens, I will come to Colorado. I will fly to Denver and watch a game.
Yeah. Like I got no issue with that. But yeah, they're not winning the division.
No.
See, I think the NL Central is forever a crapshoot. Like Brewers, I guess. Like, none of the teams strike me as particularly fantastic. The Brewers are just coached well. They're always coached well.
Yeah, Pat Murphy did a great job.
It really
First
doesn't matter
year.
who's coaching their team. Like, I would argue that they have one of the best cultures in baseball, just because they're always in it. They're always competitive. They're always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But they're always in it. Even when they're not in it, they're in it. I don't think the Cards are ready yet, if they ever decide to do anything again.
No.
Their window closed, but their young guys look good. They're just not good yet. The Cubs, I'm curious about the Cubs. Their pitching scares me, but I think that the Cubs probably flirt with the playoff bid. But yeah, I'm going Brewers. And then NL East, I just don't think you can fight against the Phils. The Phils are going to be good. Their pitching is great.
All right, I guess we'll go in the reverse order. So I'll go now.
Yeah, let's go reverse.
I think the winners from this past year are going to be the winners again. We're going to have Philly for the NL East. We're going to have Milwaukee for the Central, and Dodgers for the West. I don't think anything's really going to change for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Phillies are still a strong team overall.
All right.
I don't think they're going to falter. They still have a lot of talent, offensively and defensively.
I think that's fair. Okay. Well, West, I'll just say Dodgers as well. I think, like I said, I don't feel like any of us can really bet against them right now. Maybe the Padres give them a run for their money. I don't see it. I feel like if they were going to win the World Series, last year was their shot, and they kind of blew it. So, well, they did blow it. But, so Dodgers for West. Central, I'm leaning on the Cubs. I really feel like there's been two teams I have been so badly wrong with these past 2 years.
Always in the NL Central.
And they're always in the Central. It's been the Reds and the Cubs. And here's the thing with the Cubs. I think their pitching staff, starting-wise, is phenomenal. From you had Shota Managa, Justin Steele, Jameson Taillon, Javier Assad, who came out of nowhere and produced like a 2 through most of the year. And they're asking him to be the 5. And the pickup of Matthew Boyd, I think, is going to be so huge for them. He was so good for Cleveland down the stretch. And I truly think having him at that 3 or 4 spot is going to help the Cubs so much. As for the bullpen, that's when it gets sketchy.
Well, the problem I have with the starters in Chicago is that they're all contact pitchers. You don't have a put away guy, and you have the advantage of being in the friendly confines. It's like one of the best pitchers parks in the country, but all of those guys, if they get lit up, it's over. They cannot.
Yeah, the only guy with really swing and miss stuff. Taillon has some, but it's inconsistent. The only real guy with swing and miss stuff is Imanaga. So I do agree with that, but I just think that they got too many guys who I think just are precise with their pitching, and there's not. I think teams have gone away from that, and that's a different argument for a different day. So I like it, and again, their bullpen's essentially going to rely on how well their top 4 does in Presley, Porter Hodge, Julian Mayweather, and Ryan Brazier. That's a lot better than what it was last year. So if they had the second most blown saves in baseball last season, you don't get that. You get even half. You get rid of half of the blown saves they had. They make the playoffs They make the playoffs this year, and I truly don't believe that season was so much of an outlier of just terrible bullpen. And I just don't see that happening with Craig Counsell for 2 years straight. I really don't see that. But the guy who I believe is great. You talk about Brewers culture. Craig Counsell was a guy who always promoted good culture. He's been like that through his baseball career, like as a player and as a manager. So that's why I'm gonna take it. That's why I'm taking the Cubs. There's too much there for me to not buy in. As for the East. Again, another thing we've talked about before. I'm the single most pessimistic Phillies fan this season. I don't know what there is no reasoning behind it besides the fact that they are the Phillies, and they have done this to me so many times in the past. They did it to me in 2014. They did it to me in 2019. They did it to me in 2018, where they gave me some like optimism, and then they immediately took it away. And I don't think they're bad enough to where they're going to miss the playoffs. I don't think that, but. I really felt like after that Mets series, they needed to do a big shakeup, and they didn't. Like, personal opinion, I think Alec Boehm should have been traded fully. He should not be here.
Wow.
I really don't think he should have. And Taijuan Walker should have been sent to the sun by now, but he's still here, unfortunately.
Shameless plug, if you haven't seen it, go watch Silver Ranch's Phillies versus Mets playoff series. It's gold.
It is.
So pain.
Get him out!
Was that game 3? I went the one against. Oh yeah, it was because it was against Benaya. I remember that game, and it sucks.
Yeah. Oh, it was
but
great.
yeah,
I thought it was great.
The time. Yeah, if you're not a Phillies fan, it's wonderful. If you were a Phillies fan, like me and Jack are, we wanted to die. But I think the problem for me is just trying to buy in with a team that they had guys grossly overachieve. They had a lot of problems that were masked by the overachieving last season. Like, big thing for me, Stott and Turner need to switch positions. Turner was terrible fielding last year. He was horrible. And they still want to keep him at short because they're paying him to be a shortstop. I think that's stupid. And Stott does not hit well enough to be a second baseman. He just doesn't, and it sucks to say that. And I love him. I love him as a player. He's one of the best defensive guys I've seen in a Phillies uniform, but he just is not hitting good enough. There's just so many things that I think went right. So
I think you just need to give Stott time. I think he's going to become a really good hitter.
I think he can be, but I just think right now that I think it'd make more sense for him to be short mainly so they could get Turner out of there
Yeah.
and get him at second. I think that would benefit him a lot more in the long run, but I don't think he's going to be willing to.
Honestly, if they could turn Turner into an outfielder, I think that would be
Put him back
ideal.
in center field.
Yeah,
I was about to say the same
Put him in
thing.
center field. Or even left, honestly. Like, either or. He's just so fast, I think you could get away with putting him in the outfield, teach him the outfield spot.
I mean, he did it before with the Nats when he was a rookie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But I guess if I were to pick a team from the East, I want to die inside by saying it, but I'm going Mets. Like, I truly believe the Mets are the second best team in the National League, and that makes me want to vomit saying that because I hate the Mets, like brutally hate them.
Yeah, you got a
But
problem.
I can't sit here, look at that lineup, and say they're not going to win 98 to 100 games this season. I really can't say that because they probably, in my opinion, have one of the scariest offensive lineups, top to bottom, 1 to 9 in baseball. They have the most complete lineup, 1 to 9.
Me and Mike agree on this one.
And as for their pitching, I don't think it's amazing. And I will be curious to see because they want to stretch Clay Holmes, of all people, into a starter, which I find that confusing. But
Okay.
Hey, you know who else
They
had
did it
the
with Seth
most
Lugo,
complete
so-
roster 1 to 9?
Who?
The 21-22 San Diego Padres. Ego problem. Same thing happens here.
Yep.
I just think
I think there are two constants in baseball. Never bet against the Dodgers. Never bet for the Mets.
I know.
I feel like that's
And
pretty consistent.
I shouldn't, but I'm
going to do it anyway.
I just can't. Like, and I'm a Phillies fan, folks. For people who don't know, I am. The Mets are like the one team I hate the most in baseball, and for me to bet them, that means I really have to be bought in, which again makes me want to like recoil inside and just die. But I'm gonna go the Mets. So
Part of me now wants to see the Phillies get a 100+ win season.
I'll laugh. I'll laugh if it happens. I don't believe it. What's going to happen this season? They're going to have similar to last season. They're going to win I'll say 93 games, win a playoff series, and then choke. So that's just how I feel right now. They're not bad, but they're not good enough for a World Series right now. Don't believe it. But yeah. I guess because we had the baseball segment run for a while. You guys have been awesome so far. The last thing we were going to talk about was actually we kind of changed it last minute because things have been going on in the other two sports we haven't talked about. Basketball and hockey, almost a tale of two different all-star games. Or I guess not all-star games, but like all-star events. In which you had hockey literally probably having one of the most exciting international games since the Tournament of Millennium. And you probably had one of the most exciting hockey games since, like, the win against Russia in the Olympics. Like, genuinely. Like, it's probably up there with one of the most influential hockey games internationally ever. And then you had the NBA. Absolute tire fire, Zach. I think I'll let you lead the way on this one.
Okay, so my opinion, all-star games are not what they used to be.
No.
And I'll start with some historical background. The reason that all-star games kind of exist is because it was designed as a way for people in local markets to see superstars that they wouldn't normally get to see. Because before the days of, MLB TV or League Pass or, Sunday Ticket, like, you couldn't see anybody that wasn't in your local market or didn't have the ESPN game.
Mm-hmm.
And ESPN obviously only carries a couple of games. So odds are you're either not going to see or you're not going to see very much of those players in those other leagues outside of this, I'll call it conglomerate of all-stars, of these best players in the league as voted by the fans that you'll get the opportunity to see play in your home city. And that's why they rotate every year, is because it gives different fans a chance to see these players in person. and to get to meet them and experience the situation. And as technology and TV deals have evolved, it's evolved into a bigger spectacle. However, unfortunately, in most of the leagues, that's exactly what it's turned into. It's a spectacle now. Basketball specifically, I think that this was an embarrassment. For the third straight year, it was an embarrassment. I mean, I'll give it was a little better this year. We didn't have a 215 to 198 basketball game, which is encouraging, I suppose.
Not by much.
Yeah,
At least they tried.
I think it speaks volumes to the state of the All-Star game when the women in the WNBA, all respect to them, the All-Star week was fantastic. It was so much better than the NBA. And the WNBA being funded by the NBA, I just think that's embarrassing for the NBA. Like,
No, I agree.
I mean, it's say what you want about the money difference or the talent level or whatever. Those girls came to play. That one-on-one tournament was fantastic.
Surprised they don't have that in.
Well, it's an ego thing, and that's entirely what it is. And it's the same thing in the NFL. These guys have these egos, and they come in, and they don't want to get hurt, or that's what they say, or they don't want to get embarrassed. I mean, gee, surprise. When's the last time a superstar was in the slam dunk contest? Like, bona fide superstar. It's been like 7 or 8 years probably. I mean, Jordan used to do it. Kobe used to do it. Shaq used to do it.
You know what's bad when the last big name I could think who did the dunk contest is like the last like big influential dunk, not named Mac McClung.
Mac McClung has played 5 NBA games in his career. 5.
Yeah, but
He's
he
not
also
an
some
NBA
of the coolest.
player.
No, but he also has some of the coolest dunks ever. But that's just me. The last like impactful dunk from like a well-known basketball player for me was Vince Carter in like 05.
Okay, yeah, it's 20 years ago.
Exactly.
That's my point.
What I'm
It's
saying.
like, I think that there are certain sports that are just not made to have an all-star game. If the players aren't willing to put any more effort in, and it's very clear that the NBA players are not willing to put any effort in. You got the face of the league, LeBron James, opting out an hour before the game, not allowing a roster spot to be used on somebody else. He just said,
gross.
"Oh, I'm gone. Goodbye." Anthony Edwards did the same thing. Also, perennial face of the league, just didn't play. I'm not discounting the severity of those injuries that they may have, but it's not a good effort look. And it's really not a good effort look when, the only reason that broadcast was like 3 hours is because Kevin Hart's dancing around and the NBA on TNT team is having fishing poles and life preservers on for like 20 minutes in the middle of the game.
I saw a TikTok that talked about all that stuff, and it was like the thing I saw was wild. There was a stretch in time at some point during the All-Star game where 11 minutes out of the 60 in an hour segment had the actual basketball game on. The other 49 minutes did not show the game.
That checks out.
That's insane. Not even the Super Bowl does that.
Yeah, well, for the purpose of time, I won't dive into too much of these because I could probably talk about an hour about this. But I'll give you a quick fix. NBA, just get rid of it. If you're not going to mirror what the WNBA does, if you don't have, I'd get rid of the game. The game was useless. Nobody cares. The players don't care. Mm-hmm. The fans probably do because it's kind of cool to watch Wemby get a little lob pass and go crazy. But the players don't care.
No.
That was clear. They never have. They haven't last 10, 15 years have not cared. If you're not going to get rid of the weekend because there's too much money involved, no game. Do a series of skill position events. If they don't want to play, they don't have to go.
Yeah.
But you turn them into who's the best at, maybe you do a block contest or you do something like you do a one-on-one contest or you do, the three-point's cool. I like the three-point contest. Slam dunk is always a big hit item. Or you just, you do backyard basketball. Like half court, 3-on-3.
Like pickup style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Pickup style.
Exactly. Take them back to their roots.
What's the 2K NBA? 2K?
Exactly, yeah. But
Like the My Street sort of stuff.
Yeah, but don't do it. The way that you're doing is an embarrassment to the game, to tell you the truth. And it's not
I
Adam
agree.
Silver's fault. It's not the commissioner's fault. He's trying everything he can, but if the players don't care, then the players don't care.
No, and it's really frustrating to see that because again, you see the inverse of it on the NHL side. Like the All-Star game can be a little bit of like a little bit of a spectacle. They've done some weird things, but like I think back to the Vegas one, I think they did a really good job with that. I forget the one what was before. I want to say before or after. I forget if it was. I think it was after. I want to say it was in St. Louis. I watched bits and pieces of it, and I really thought it was fun to watch, albeit gimmicky at times. But it was really cool to like. It really felt like everybody was there having a good time and generally doing like wanting to do it for the sake of just doing it.
I'm fine with. I'm honestly, I have no problems with people wanting to have fun and, you know, do something cool or try something you wouldn't normally try. Like, go for it. But
Yeah.
if you're blatantly not gonna put effort in, don't be there.
Yeah.
I mean, NHL. This is a game that doesn't matter. Realistically, you get nothing
None of these games matter.
out of the Four Nations. There is no general benefit other than bragging rights. Maybe
And
there's a
country
trophy.
pride.
I don't actually know the answer to
I
that.
think there's a little. I think there is a trophy for the
But
Four Nations.
you're telling they just set the record for the fastest fight in international history.
Yeah.
You had three
3
fights
seconds.
in 30 seconds.
3 seconds.
Three fights in
Okay,
9
I thought it was
seconds.
5.
For 9 seconds. I thought it was 30.
9 game seconds. There were 3 fights,
That's crazy.
and they
That's
broke
crazy.
the Chichucks. Both of the Chichucks broke the record of 20 seconds. Was the fastest fight in international history, set by their father.
That first fight was still wild, but I think Kachuk's like 6'4". Brandon Hagel was like 6'1", and he took him down.
Well,
That's
it's
insane to me.
Florida. It's Miami versus Tampa. I mean, it's pretty easy to just look at him and be like, "Yo, we're going right now."
Yeah.
Because you knew second that was
They
like
go
there
at it all
was
the time.
conversation beforehand. It's like,
Oh, they planned it. I think they came
Oh.
out and said they planned it.
well, I mean, it fires the people up, and I know that's a hockey thing, but like, what better way to get the fans involved and to show that you care than
Yeah.
getting licks in?
Yeah.
And did you see how excited
Especially at the
Matt
start.
was when his brother came in the box?
Oh,
Like he's
yeah.
banging on the side, he's jumping up and down, like that's my brother. I mean, it was his brother, but like,
It
you know what I
was.
mean? NFL needs to move their All-Star game in the middle of the season.
Get rid of flag.
They need to do it after week 10 if they keep it. But this after the season thing is useless. Nobody cares. Everybody wants to go home.
Yep.
They just played, some of them played up to 21 weeks of football, not including the preseason and training camp and stuff that they've been doing since April. None of them care because this is their 3 months off now. They get 3 months off to relax, enjoy their family,
Go to Cancun.
vacation. Yeah. Cancun All-Star team, they got to meet too. But
Exactly.
but my issue, nobody cares.
Yeah.
That
Nobody
one,
wants
I
to
mean, the
watch
NBA is
flag
bad
football.
because the NBA is now, and
Agreed.
they have to fight with the image that the NHL is given, which is fantastic. But the NFL, nobody watches it anymore. Like, the players don't care. They moved it to flag football. Flag football.
And they have like
And still nobody
dodgeball
cares.
and stuff
Nobody
there.
You
wants
had
to watch flag.
They had
ninth
dodgeball,
alternate,
didn't they? Like last
ninth
year?
alternate quarterback.
Yeah, Drake May.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, if you've got 3/4 of the field of AFC quarterbacks in the
Not
Pro Bowl,
interested.
is it an All-Star game anymore?
No.
No, it's because nobody cares. Because Lamar, Allen, Stroud,
Mahomes.
they're all just out of the playoffs. Like, not
Oh,
only
yeah,
are they
they're
upset,
just-
they're probably beat up.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling Allen that he lost his chance to go to the Super Bowl, and now he's got to go to Orlando and play in some stupid game?
Even Herbert didn't even go.
Yeah, nobody cares. I mean, they care less than basketball, which is saying something. It's baffling to me. And if they don't move it to the middle of the season, because they're trying to add another game. They're trying to add another game into the season, and they're trying to add another bye. So what they need to do is they add this 18th game. They don't lose their scheduling at all. And then they can just push the week for the Pro Bowl. You push it up into like a second bye week for everybody. Everybody gets a bye week on the same week. Then you don't have these teams complaining that their bye was in week 4 in, first week of October, and it's January now and they haven't had a bye in 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have that problem. You don't have the issue of now all these guys got 2 weeks off in between the conference championship and the Super Bowl that they just do nothing with. Like, there's a reason there's a whole media week is because they're already done practicing.
Yeah.
They had their week of practice. They're done. What else are you going to do for a week?
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, the MLB All-Star Game is probably the best one, but if it didn't have the Home Run Derby, it wouldn't be.
Right.
I mean, the Home Run Derby makes the weekend every year,
Oh yeah.
and it is the spectacle. It's the highlight of the weekend, or the week, I guess.
But
It's
even
always
then, like
Tuesday.
even watching the All-Star game is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The first 3 innings are great. And that is purely how baseball works. It's like you have the chance to
Yeah.
see Paul Skeens face Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and Mike Trout back to back to back.
Yep.
I mean, of course, that's fantastic. But then after that, it gets kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah, but I think it's also nice because you get to see everybody gets to have that, like their guy gets to go in. Like we talked
Right.
about the NBA. not everybody gets to go in for the NBA. And that's sometimes with baseball, not everybody gets to go in, but like they get like they'll put in like 9 pitchers and they'll use like pretty much the entire bench for baseball. Maybe not everybody, but they'll use just about everybody. I've seen it with basketball. Sometimes they'll only run out like 8 guys for an All-Star game. Like, are you serious?
But I guess in conclusion, All-Star games are weak. I mean, it is essentially a bye week with extra steps.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, if you want to call it that, call it that. But to trot out the best of the best competing against each other, give me a break. Don't waste my time.
I personally would rather see it just be all skills competitions across the board. Like, just rather see the skills competitions. Because the games
I'd put a bonus
cool.
for each of them too.
Yeah.
An incentive base.
Yeah, some incentive.
Winner gets $100,000 or something.
Yeah. Just because I think the All-Star games are cool and all, but at this point we can see people face each other all the time. Like, we can go watch a Dodgers game whenever we want. MLB TV, it's on ESPN. You can go see it. Like, there's sources now to go see it, and like you were saying earlier, like that was for people to be able to see it. People they haven't seen play ever because of local channels, and I think now we have those options to see those guys go play, and they have the recaps like on MLB Quick Pitch. They show the recaps of those guys. You can see Shohei Ohtani go 6 for 6 with 2 stolen bases, 2 bombs, and 2 doubles.
Yeah.
Like, man, he's the guy. So
I guess the last thing I'll say to this is it's an interesting place right now because I feel like you got 2 conflicting situations right now. You got 2 All-Star games that are great, and maybe because baseball is great mainly because of the home run derby. I
Just
get
get a better
not the other stuff hits.
singer, please.
That was still wild. But yeah, with baseball and hockey, you get like genuinely entertaining All-Star weeks.
yeah.
Like you get like the spectacle of the players. It feels like the fans are involved, and it just like involves everybody. When you get like the Pro Bowl crap, and again, like, even with that, like, do fans go to that?
I've been to the Pro Bowl. I went last year. It sucked.
The one in Orlando?
Oh yeah, you didn't really know what was going on because in the stadium there's like 4 different things going on at the same time.
How many people are there? I'm just curious. That place is not packed, is it?
10,000 maybe.
Really? I didn't even think it would be that many.
Maybe just because all your people are like.
I guess that's true.
People still
Because you get a lot of friends.
It's a small stadium, so it makes it look bigger. But yeah, I mean, it was okay at best. Like, it was really confusing. It was, I mean, ADHD dream, I'm sure, because there was something going on all over the place. It was hard to kind of direct your attention. And it's not like the game was on. Mm-hmm. It was like, all right, well, there was a drive. They just scored a touchdown. Let's bring up the sled pull relay or something. It's like, okay. Like it's like instead of a commercial break, it'd be like, okay, we're gonna do this now, and then you're gonna go back and you're gonna play again. It's like,
yeah.
Might as well put I guess in the middle of it.
But yeah, like to basically just kind of put a bow on what I was thinking was that you got baseball and hockey that feels like it's both player and fan involved, but now you got football and basketball where you're essentially they essentially give it all the powers to the players. The players don't care. And it makes for a crappy product. And I'm surprised it hasn't affected. I mean, I guess it's never really going to affect their bottom line because it's not that big a deal. But, like, at some point when the viewership's as bad as it is, because I don't know what the viewership numbers for the Pro Bowl is, like Pro Bowl or All-Star games. But I know football, like, numbers have stayed kind of consistent the last few years, but they have such a big international audience that it never really matters. Basketball, on the other hand, they've had rating drops since 2012, and it's gone down every single year. They have not had a plus year in viewership, and I've looked at that's like when I was looking at the Nielsen ratings since they haven't had a positive year in a positive net year in viewership since 2012. That's going on 13 straight seasons with a disappointing product that nobody wants to watch. And that's more of a basketball thing, but when the All-Star game is kind of the antithesis of, like, nobody cares, there's no real star that anybody wants to really get attached to, and the product as a whole, even the bits that aren't the game itself, are produced so bad. You talked about the TNT and the Kevin Hart bits. Both single-handedly made the event almost unwatchable. Like looking back is hearing some of the parts of the broadcast. It made that event almost bordering on unwatchable when you had another product the same day as the All-Star game that made for some of the best commentary, best hockey, best TV to watch in complete contrast on the same day. And that's to say what it is, and it's really frustrating to see.
Yeah.
So I guess to wrap it up, thank you, Mikey and Zach, for coming on. This has been episode 1 of The Postman. You guys have been awesome. I hope if you guys enjoyed this, make sure you share this around to people, and if for those on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and turn on that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on more episodes coming out in the future. Any last words you want to say?
Someday we'll explain why we're that name, but not today.
Yeah,
not yet.
Subscribe for more information.
Subscribe for more. Anything from you, Mikey?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. For that out of the way, we're all signing off, and I hope you all have a great night.
Peace.